All right. Well, hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on behalf of the Google Enterprise Government team. My name is James Hilliard. I'm going to be the host for the Hangout series here at Innovation for the Nation. Over the next 2 days, some really inspiring and innovative stories is what we're going to be sharing on these Hangouts here. We're going to be talking about Chromebooks. We'll be talking about them as the modern laptop. Absolutely, this is a Google event, so Maps and Google Earth are going to take center stage for a while. I know, looking at some notes here, registration, a lot of law enforcement individuals are on board. You're going to hear some success stories, how other law enforcement groups have been using search to help them in investigations and in other ways. You're going to be hearing from really government transformers. They're folks like you that are taking Google technologies and services and really pushing the limits. Pushing the limits not only to the benefit of their citizens, but also to the benefits of their employees. So lots of great stories. That's what we want to do in these Hangouts. Each session about 30 minutes long. Variety of styles. Some will be interview style, some will be sharing some slides with you. Other times you actually see demonstrations, live demos as we go through the Hangout of certain technologies. So that's what you're in for when you join these Hangouts. I think we have 11 or 12 scheduled. We hope you can make all of them. If you don't make one or two based on your schedule, we are going to be recording, so you'll have access to some of those on demand. Along with these Hangouts, we have some scheduled chats. Those are over in the networking lounge of our virtual environment. Some of the guests that you'll see here in the Hangouts will then move over to those scheduled chats. You'll also see some other folks that will not be joining us here but can join you in those chats. You can go to our sponsor booths. Case studies, other white papers, representatives from those companies are available as well within those booths. It's a virtual environment. It's a tech world we invite you to explore, get familiar with our environment. Also be looking out for certain messages that will be going on over the next 2 days. These messages will be on the marquees, and they'll be alerting you again to a scheduled chat that might be coming up, some other things that are going on within the virtual environment. So look for those. I also want to draw your attention to that networking lounge. Within the networking lounge, several message boards so you can talk about specific ideas. I want you also to focus on the QA message board. That's where you can submit questions. I've got another screen here where I can see your questions and comments coming in. So we'll try and mix those into a lot of these Hangouts as well. And a hashtag. Get over on Twitter, fire up that Twitter account, make sure you tweet out to your followers some tweetable moments, some ideas that you get from this event that you might put into action. Hashtag IFTN13, Innovation for the Nation. It's 2013, so IFTN13 is the hashtag. And again, the networking lounge, go to that Q&A message board. With that, we want to jump right on into our keynote address. Megabits to gigabits, transformation for community innovation. About 25 minutes or so here, and then we are going to have about a 10-minute Q&A session at the end, so stay tuned for that. Remembering that hashtag IFTN13 over on Twitter. I think this keynote is going to lay the foundation for the event, and it really is tied to the foundation of a lot of the stories and services you're going to be hearing about over the next 2 days. Connectivity. If we're not connected, what we're talking about today isn't happening. So what we want to discuss in the keynote is where are we going? Milo Medine is with us. He is the VP of Access Services with Google. Milo, really do appreciate you taking the time joining all of us to kick off our Hangout series here on Innovation for the Nation.
Thanks, James. It's great to be here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share some things about what we're doing with fiber.
Absolutely.
So, if we go to the first slide, let's see if my clicker actually works. Okay. You know, I don't think I need to tell most of you that broadband service in America is not really advancing as quickly as it should. A company I helped found about 16 years ago began offering broadband service over cable for about $40 a month for about 4 or 5 megabits of download. Today, things have gotten somewhat faster. Prices have not come down. Certainly, if you remember 16 years ago what the price of long distance was, cellular minutes or data was, we haven't seen that kind of price reduction or step function increase in speed. That's a problem because we compete in a global context where the access to information, the fastest access to information, drives economic activity and productivity. And so falling behind is a real problem. The stats are pretty clear about this. I'm going to give you the OECD 2012 data. U.S. lags the rest of the world in average advertised download speed. So you see we're kind of in the middle there. But we do excel in one dimension, and that is U.S. Consumers pay more than pretty much everybody else in the rest of the world. If you look at this chart, the only people who pay more on a dollar per megabit basis are Israel, New Zealand, Chile, Greece, and Mexico. It's not exactly the kind of neighborhood we're used to operating in. Back in 2009, Google was thinking about what to do about the national broadband plan that was being run, and we decided to try an experiment, see if some city would like to partner with us to deploy gigabit in their community. And I think inside Google, people thought it might be, I don't know, a dozen cities would be interested in this. When the RFI was released, we were just shocked. About 1,100 communities responded saying, tell us what it takes to bring gigabits to our community. That caused us to step back and say, is there actually an opportunity to have a real business here? Not an experiment, but a real product that would go out and meet this need that people, many of which are in cities that folks on this video conference are part of, told us that they wanted. And so we changed what we were doing. We moved away from a science experiment to a real product. And so today, my team and the rest of Google are working to deploy a gigabit fiber optic network product initially in Kansas City and its surrounding areas, soon to be in Austin, Texas, and in Provo, Utah. We are competing as a retail operator, as to say, we compete directly with the cable operator and the telephone company offering a set of services. We expect that to be a profitable business, and we want to replicate it in multiple markets. So what is it that exactly that we're doing? Well, we have three main products. If you pay $120 a month, you get a gigabit up and down with no volume caps. You get all your favorite TV channels, a multi-room DVR that can actually store 500 hours of high-definition recording. You can record 8 high-definition streams at once. It comes with an Android Nexus 7 tablet, which we think is a great way to control your system, browse for content, etc., and a terabyte of Google Drive. Because one of the great things about a symmetric broadband product like this one is you can upload stuff into the cloud just as quickly as you can download it. At $120 a month, it's an incredibly competitive offering compared to what other people in the market charge. For $70 a month, users can get a gigabit up and down plus a terabyte of Google Drive. And we also have a free product, which is available basically when we're first building the market. If you basically raise your hand and say, I'll pay a $300 construction fee, we will provide you with at least 7 years of 5 megabit internet access for free, no recurring charge. We do that to try and bring disconnected people to the web, but also because it's really inexpensive for us to connect up extra homes while we're going through doing that initial build. And again, this is all connectivity allows you to go anywhere on the web, interact with any service, and be able to enjoy all the kinds of content and applications that the internet has to offer. Uh, we've done a lot of work to really make the gigabit product be a real product. The slide shows a speed test that one of our users took. 940 megabits down, 946 megabits up, a millisecond away from a server. It's a pretty fast product, and it's not just in terms of benchmarks that we excel in. Netflix rates us as the top ISP in the world, actually, in terms of the quality of Netflix's streaming experience. We've been at the top of the chart since it debuted and have continued to be there. We do a lot of things to try and make that gigabit be real relevant to you, and do a good job of that. We have two main prongs that we do to try and make this a product that's affordable and a profitable product for Google. As I said before, we expect this to be a real business. The first is we ask cities that we partner with for something really, really hard. We don't ask for tax breaks. We don't ask for cash. We ask them to kind of streamline their internal processes. Things like providing us dedicated inspectors so that my construction crews never have to wait for an inspection. People that are co-located with the permitting office. So if you've got a situation where you've got challenges with playing telephone tag or trying to get new permits updated, those can be done really in a streamlined process. You just walk across the hall and deal with it. Being able to put equipment on city property and use city rights-of-way, so we don't have to go through a process of having to go acquire it, negotiate, et cetera, and taking time. And using the large network infrastructure that Google uses to deliver its services to reduce transport costs, and Google's buying power to drive our equipment costs down. The other thing we do is we use social approaches to sort of aggregate demand. What we do is we break up a city into neighborhoods, which we call fiberhoods, 800 to 1,000 homes each. And then we basically set targets based on the cost to build in that neighborhood of how many houses have to sign up or pre-register for the service before we'll actually build in that neighborhood. So some of the areas that were really expensive, we might have required 25% of the homes to sign up before we would build. Others that are in denser areas, aerial plant, et cetera, might only be 5 and the rest were 10. And so we basically have this rally process where everybody goes out and gets their neighbors to sign up. When that threshold is crossed and the fiberhood turns green, then we will build fiber in that area and construct everybody, and including connecting up the schools and libraries and other anchor institutions that the cities have designated at a gigabit for free, because we think bringing everybody in the community up to a gigabit has a lot of value. When we go and actually do the installs, we install everybody in one big wave. So we go through, connect everybody up, and that, by the way, allows us to do things like give you a 9:15 in the morning install appointment instead of something between 8 and 1, because literally all of the trucks are in that neighborhood doing all the installs that day or that set of days, and that allows us to be pretty flexible. So if somebody's not home, we can retask those folks. They don't have to drive all over the city. So it gives users a better experience. And we give the free service, again, to help people decide, make it easy for them, make it an easy decision for them to subscribe to the network when it's the cheapest for us to connect them. In Kansas City, in the first build area, there were 202 fiber hoods. About 180 of those fiber hoods hit their thresholds and are being built as we speak. So we have real users. They've been installed since November. Over 33,000 homes registered for service in about 6 weeks. The top neighborhoods had over half of the households sign up to take fiber product. And the north and south part of Kansas City, Missouri are going to be, rallies for them will be run later this year. One of the interesting dynamics we found was a lot of the people told us the neighborhoods became much more unified as a result of the rally. People talked to their neighbors. People talked to each other that they in ways that they usually hadn't done before. One of the things that was really a surprise to us is Fitch, the credit rating agency, actually upgraded Kansas City, Missouri's debt rating to stable, partly due to the economic development that they saw Google Fiber bringing to Kansas City. So it's pretty. There's a startup village that's been built out there. A number of small entrepreneurs have moved in to rent rooms and buy houses in the first block, in the first neighborhood that we constructed, and there's a lot of entrepreneurial activity of people coming in from all over the country to do development on apps and other products that having a gigabit network really empowers them to do. Other cities in Kansas City DMA have been announced, and we intend to build out that whole area. So not just Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, but all the surrounding suburbs as well. We've announced Austin, Texas. That'll be the second area that will get fiber. It was interesting, 24 hours after announcing Austin's next fiber city, 45,000 people signed up for news, and 35,000 people said, I want to be a volunteer. Tell us what it takes to help me get my neighborhood signed up. So it's been a really enthusiastic response to the product, lots of demand. Users, again, have this real product. Users have been installed since last November. It was really interesting. Back in February of this year, a survey done by the local newspaper, the Kansas City Star, said users loved the speed and the TV product. But the thing that most amazed them was our great customer service. And that's a thing I'm especially proud of, because that's not an area that typically Google is known for. But you know, we've applied some ingenuity and tools, many of the tools that the enterprise team offers to you to make our internal processes work better and deliver a great experience to users. So what can cities do to help take you from megabit connectivity to gigabit connectivity in your community? Well, the first thing is, if you make your city and your state easy places to build in. You know, we talked about streamlining access to rights of way, things like poles and underground conduit, going through roads and transportation hubs, various pieces of infrastructure. A lot of times these are all run by different agencies and very different processes. Being able to streamline that, make it easy for somebody to come in and do a build throughout the community will lower cost and incent people like us to come. Make your permitting and approval processes be more automated. You know, fax machines are so 90s. You know, it's a lot of back and forth. When you're doing a large-scale network build like this, you can't really be doing things on a one-off basis. You need to be able to be electronic and move quickly, provide better service. Anytime the ground is open, make sure to install conduit. You know, the cost of putting a tube of conduit and handholds is very minimal, but it reduces the cost of pulling fiber down that path by anywhere from 90 to 95%. And it removes the need to tear the street open again, close it, inconvenience people with traffic, diversions, etc. So, you know, anytime the ground is open, put in conduit that anybody can pull fiber through. And, you know, working with cities and localities who want to build fiber, you know, basically removing obstacles. A lot of states have put in place rules that constrain what cities can do in constructing networks or working with partners. We at Google don't think that's a good idea. I think it's very important to make it easier and easier to build infrastructure, whoever is doing it. We also think it's important to work with utilities to make it easier and cheaper to attach fiber. poles utility poles get replaced about every 10 years. So there's a constant set of poles that are being replaced or upgraded, etc. And anytime a pole is replaced, it should be replaced with a taller pole that has an extra foot or so of space with the ability to put a fiber on that later. The process of making these poles ready, or what we call in the business make ready, is a slow and expensive process. If you had poles that already had space already assigned to them that you could just go through and attach fiber to without having to go through a complicated make ready process, dramatically lowers the cost of building in a community, and it also makes it a lot faster to deploy the network. But most of all, it's very important that you not be satisfied with the status quo. We got to this place of mediocrity in broadband because basically cities thought of infrastructure like telecom as something that somebody else handled, whether it's the cable company or telephone company, not being intentional about thinking about rights of way, making it easier to have networks being built in your community, makes it difficult to have people like us come in and construct and offer new services. You really don't want to depend on any single company, whether it's a cable operator or a telephone company or us, to solve this problem for you. You really have to think about it, think about how you change your processes, make it easier for new networks to get built. You need to think about how you own the problem. And by working together, we don't think we have to settle for what we have now. We can do a lot better. There's not one model that works for everybody, but we think that gigabit networking is really important. Consumers love the products, and I've never yet met someone who said, my internet connection is too fast. So we've got a lot of room to grow. We look forward to working with you, and I'll take any questions that folks might have right now.
Milo, let me start off with a comment from CT over on Twitter using the hashtag IFTN13. He really liked the fax machines are so 90s. I think a lot of us agree with that. Let me saw Fletcher out there on Twitter as well and some other folks, and it got me thinking for our government audience here, talking about things that cities can do to prepare. Who have you seen in more of a title, and who do you envision would be some of the government leaders that can bring these types of services to their cities? Is it a city manager? Does this start at the mayor and the board of directors, right, forcing it there? Is it the CIO of certain cities? Is it at a state level? Do you have to involve them? Talk a little bit about the people that are involved at the government level to bring these types of technologies in.
So I think generally it's city managers oftentimes run the apparatus that controls the permitting process, controls the rights of way, etc. So leadership at that level is really important because if you just think through the process of what it would take to have somebody build in your city comprehensively and remove those barriers, streamline that process, those organizations are key to making this work and lowering the cost. Part of the reason that a lot of cities don't think about this, or those processes aren't optimized for this, is your usual telco or cable incumbents. Those networks were put in many, many years ago, and they incrementally upgrade. They go, I'm going to extend something here, I'm going to do something new here. So the volume of permits or the volume of activity that an office would see from companies like this is relatively low. But if you're actually going to go through and build fiber to the home, touching virtually every pole, going through, touching every street, it's a whole different class of animal. And so that it really takes leadership in terms of understanding how processes need to change to make that easier. I would say mayors and city councils are really important because without that kind of political backing to basically organize the community and say, this is what we need. We need to be creative and pull every lever we can in terms of working with utilities that may be part of the city or that the city has a relationship with again, to try and get them to participate as kind of a team to driving costs down. All of these things are really important. So I think it's both high-level people, but also going deep into the organization, looking at processes. How can we speed things up, getting rid of fax machines and being much more electronic.
In Kansas City, and I know we're early there, but has there been any feedback yet from the city saying, wait a second, now that our consumers, now that our homes have this, we're getting more demands for certain services, right? I can only imagine as creatures of technology and as we consume technology, the faster it gets, the more we do. We've seen, Netflix, you brought up as an example. Because we're getting faster speeds, more of us are doing that type of activity. So has the city found, wait a second, now that this is available to our public, they expect more from us as a city in terms of services and connection?
I think, it's still early days, but the city's governments have been thinking through the processes of how to make more of their information available. And what this kind of speed can do to empower new kinds of opportunities. So, for example, in Kansas City, there's a startup effort where the libraries will allow you to remotely access software like Adobe Premiere or various other products, digital books, digital content, from servers that are run at a library. You just remotely log in and actually can run the application. So now they're selling applications or loaning out access to software and applications because you've got a really fast network that allows them to do that. So here you've got a library moving out of the kind of traditional physical content into digital content of all kinds. That wouldn't really be possible without the kind of connectivity that's being installed now.
You bring up libraries. It's a nice, easy transition for me to plug our 2 o'clock session Pacific time later on today, library system up in the Portland, Oregon area. They're going to be talking about Chromebooks and how they're using Chromebooks within the library there. So I encourage folks interested, join us for that. David over on Twitter saying, don't settle. He retweeting here your idea of don't settle for what we have. Our next session, folks, 10 o'clock Pacific time, Flint Waters, the CIO of Wyoming, I think Milo epitomizes that idea. He came into an environment where Gmail and calendar had already been moved for Wyoming, and he didn't settle for that. He's been pushing the buttons left and right to really move that state forward. So that session is going to come up here in a few minutes after ours. That'll be at the top of the hour, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Let's get into a couple other questions here. I'm going to save that one for the end. There's a question here I want you to kind of wrap up on. Let's do the budget concerns, obviously, with a lot of our cities and states. And we have about 80% of the folks that are joining us have registered are going to be kind of state, local type government. If they have folks within their cities that are saying it's not worth investing in bandwidth, they don't see the return on that investment, what is it that you would say to someone that says, I just don't see investing in bandwidth, I don't think it's really going to benefit us? What is that vision you have that you could turn someone and say, no, this is why you need to invest in bandwidth?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting. The Fitch upgrade of Kansas City's debt rating is an indicator of what the economic value is of having this kind of ultra-fast connectivity in a community. I would say it doesn't mean that cities have to go try and build their own networks, right? In the case of Kansas City, Missouri, they're not paying for building fiber. They're just making their processes that they already have put in place, that they already finance, smoother, easier, lower hassle, so that someone like us can go in, invest the capital in building out in that community. And, we employ a lot of people right now doing construction, constructing the network, both on electrical folks up on poles as well as folks doing underground boring and trenching. So, I would say there's not one model that works for everybody. The main thing is get whatever you're already paying to do to work more efficiently, to work more collaboratively. And that's not about spending a lot more money on it. You can go do those kind of things today without writing a big check.
Question coming in from one of our chat rooms, and again, the networking lounge, folks, is where you can go. You look for the message boards and then the QA chat room. Can you talk, Milo, about Google's plans to address the digital divide in underserved areas? Maybe the high vision there, and then any details you can share.
Sure. Well, part of what we've been doing in Kansas City is, the free product is a very compelling offer to get people who really could not afford to be connected. It's a great opportunity. A lot of apartment buildings have worked with us to basically take us up on that offer, and that allows the apartment owner to basically sell or rent apartment units with basic internet built in. That the tenants don't even pay the $300 for the connection fee. That gets done by the landlord, and that because they're now competing for tenants. And if your apartment building is equipped with gigabit connectivity with basic 5 megabit internet for free, that goes a long way to help address the divide. Part of the challenge that we found, we did a pretty extensive study in Kansas City before we announced our products and pricing. There are a variety of reasons why people are connected. Some of it is legitimately they can't afford it. A lot of folks don't feel it's worth it. So for example, you may have somebody who's paying for a cable TV subscription, happy to do that, but they don't pay for internet because they don't consider it valuable. One of the fascinating things we found was there's a strong correlation. If you don't believe that you need internet access to apply for a job, you generally don't think that internet access or broadband access is important enough or high value enough to subscribe to. And that's really stunning because even a company like Walmart no longer accepts physical applications. The only way you can fill a job application at Walmart is electronically. So I think part of this is an understanding where the issues are. In some cases, you've got people who, they're concerned they don't know how to run a computer or make sure the antiviruses, stuff is loaded and that they don't have spyware running their machines. Chromebooks and devices like that, which are really easy to manage, much less complicated, really help bridge that gap. So, you've got a variety of challenges to overcome in closing that gap. I would say that, as we did this rally, the poorest communities in the state of Kansas are in some of those fiber hoods in Kansas City, Kansas, and they all qualified because they viewed this as being really important for their community, taking advantage of the free connectivity offer, getting their schools and libraries connected. And so there's a number of steps we're taking. We really think we can bring everybody along.
The remainder of the 2 days that we'll be sharing here on the Hangouts, we'll be hearing stories from folks that are IT individuals. We'll hear from other kind of end users of some of the technologies within the cities. So I really do encourage folks, check out the agenda, save your calendar, make sure you join us for as many of these as possible. Milo, I'm going to give you one more question, and then we'll wrap up with a couple comments and be moving on. It's you painting us a picture of a different world when we all are at gigabit or above, right? What are some of the things that you and team are thinking about, wondering, hoping will be there that we'll all be able to do as governments, as citizens, when this is truly there for everybody?
Well, it's interesting, I was saying that I think it's easier to invent the future than to predict it. What we're doing is laying down a platform. And if you think about Google, we're really a platforms company. We build platforms that other people use to add value to them, to put information into them, to build applications and services on top of. In Kansas City today, we see things like this library effort I mentioned to share software and services. The ability to do two-way, very high-resolution video conferencing is something that a lot of the medical professionals are very interested in. Cerner is a medical information technology company that's located in the area. They and the KU Med Center and others are working together to what can you do when all of a sudden you can have really high definition 1080p video conferencing between a doctor and a patient at home. The ability to have smart devices reporting status. You know, did this pill get actually pill case actually open up, et cetera. Being able to relate to people using this bandwidth in new ways. I think also certainly as one former Google employee who's now at a startup, he visited our retail space in Kansas City. He said, after playing with the product, he said, there's no difference. I'm not separated from the internet anymore. I feel like I'm now part of the net. And effectively that's true. At a gigabit, your home, your small business, et cetera, can be part of the cloud. The ability to move data back and forth without having to wait is something that these kind of connections can provide, allow cities to share information in their schools, between their schools, share media, share content, the ability to, for example, to give schools the ability to create new kinds of programming, show that to the community, new forms of engagement. Think about high definition hangouts where you have everybody in your community can now participate in using all kinds of different media, all integrated. You really are at the beginning of the gigabit revolution.
I started off saying, we were going to talk about the foundation here, connectivity, and connectivity is not just a technology, but it is it's connecting of people, because ultimately that's what the technology is doing. That's the story and a message that you've shared with us, Milo, so I appreciate it. Milo Medin is the VP of Access Services with Google. That is our keynote address. I think that lays a great foundation for the rest of our Hangouts that we'll be doing here on Innovation for the Nation. Lots of great tweets going on over at Twitter, so use the hashtag IFTN13. We're going to stop on down for about 20 minutes. In the meantime, starting right about now over in the Networking Lounge, Scott McIntyre, the Director for State and Local Government with Google, is going to be holding a scheduled chat, latest trends in state and local government with Google. So I encourage you to head on over to the Networking Lounge for that. Then join us back here at 10 o'clock Pacific time if you want to hear a story about a CIO that is just pushing all the buttons and really moving things forward with the use of Google technology. So with that, folks, appreciate you joining us for this keynote. Look forward to seeing you in about 20 minutes.